All right, today we're jumping into one of the biggest, most fundamental ideas in all of biology, the tree of life. We're going to explore the absolutely massive challenge of how you organize every single living thing on this planet, and how a huge technological revolution completely redrew the map of life as we know it.
So just try to imagine this for a second. You've got millions, maybe even billions, of different species out there. How on earth do you even start to figure out who's related to whom? It's like trying to build the ultimate family tree, not just for humans, but for everything from the bacteria in your gut to a giant blue whale. It's a puzzle that scientists have been wrestling with for hundreds of years.
And the goal, really, has always been this epic quest to create one single definitive map, a tree of life that shows exactly how every branch, every twig, and every leaf is connected. The first big attempt at this was, well, it was a bit like creating a giant filing cabinet for all of nature.
So let's talk about that first attempt, the classic filing system. This is probably the one you remember from biology class, and for a very long time, it was the best map we had.
The way it works is actually a lot like a postal address, where each step gets more and more specific. You start out super broad with the kingdom, and then you narrow it down, phylum, class, order, family, genus, until you land on one single unique species. Each step you take down that ladder, it's like getting into a more and more exclusive club.
And for most of the 20th century, that system sorted all life into 5 big kingdoms. You had your animals, your plants, your fungi, your bacteria, and then there was Protista. And it's that last one, Protista, where the cracks in this old filing system really started to show.
I mean, think of Protista as biology's junk drawer. You know, if you found an organism with complex cells, what we call eukaryotic, but it wasn't obviously a plant or an animal or a fungus, well, you just tossed it into the Protista pile. This giant catch-all group was a huge red flag that our map of life was missing something big.
And then, boom, everything changed. We basically stopped just looking at organisms and we started reading their source code, their fundamental instruction manuals. It was a full-blown genetic revolution. And this is the key, right? The whole approach just flipped on its head. We went from sorting life based on appearance, what it looks like, its physical shape, to sorting it based on genetics, by comparing the actual code written in its DNA. It was a complete paradigm shift. Okay, so the tool that kicked all this off is called ribosomal RNA sequencing. I know, it's a mouthful, but the idea behind it is just genius. See, every living cell has these tiny ancient factories called ribosomes. And the genetic blueprint for these factories, the RNA, it changes incredibly slowly over evolutionary time. This makes it the perfect molecular clock. By comparing the RNA code between two organisms, scientists could suddenly see these deep, ancient family ties that were totally invisible to the naked eye.
And the impact? It was absolutely massive. It was like we'd been navigating with a treasure map drawn on a napkin, and someone just handed us a high-def satellite GPS. The entire landscape of life was about to get redrawn.
And what this new genetic map showed us was a structure that was even more fundamental than the 5 kingdoms. It gave us the 3 domains of life.
So this new framework organizes everything, all of life, into 3 huge categories called domains. First, you've got bacteria. These are the single-celled organisms without a nucleus that we're all pretty familiar with. Then came the huge surprise, a completely new group called archaea. They also don't have a nucleus, but as we'll see, they're a world apart from bacteria. And finally, there's eukarya. And that's pretty much everything else you can think of. That's us, that's plants, fungi, you name it. If its cells have a nucleus, it's in eukarya.
The scientist who figured this all out was Carl Woese back in the 70s. His groundbreaking work using rrna sequencing showed that the group we'd just been calling bacteria for ages, well, it was hiding a massive secret. The biggest, oldest split in the entire tree of life wasn't between simple cells and complex cells. Nope. It was a huge chasm running right through what we thought were the simplest forms of life.
And this, right here, was the mind-blowing part. That old bacteria kingdom wasn't one thing at all. It was 2 totally separate domains of life, bacteria and archaea. And to give you an idea of how different they are, genetically, an archaean is as different from a bacterium as you are from a bacterium. I mean, wow! Many of these archaea are extremophiles, living in boiling hot springs or super salty lakes. This discovery wasn't just adding a little twig to the tree, it was like discovering the trunk had split in 2 right at the very base. So you're probably wondering, what about that messy junk drawer kingdom, Protista? Well, it's gone. With this new, more accurate genetic system, the kingdom Protista just doesn't exist anymore. All those organisms got resorted into their actual family trees within the eukarya domain, based on who they're really related to. The filing cabinet of life got a complete, ground-up reorganization.
Okay, so this all leads to the big takeaway. Why does all this matter? Why is looking at genetics so much better than just looking at physical traits?
It's simple, really. Today, the undisputed gold standard, especially for microbes, is genetic sequence data. It's just the most reliable and fundamental source of information we've got, period.
I mean, think about it. Just looking at things can be super misleading, right? A dolphin looks a lot like a shark. They both have fins, they're both streamlined for the water, but one's a mammal and one's a fish. They're not close relatives at all. On the flip side, a bat's wing and your hand look totally different, but the bones inside tell a clear story of a shared ancestor. Genetic data just cuts right through all that surface-level stuff and shows us the real family tree.
So, if you need a simple way to wrap your head around this whole shift, it's kind of like this. When it comes to the tree of life, what an organism looks like on the outside doesn't matter nearly as much as who it is on the inside, genetically speaking.
So if you remember just one thing from all this, let it be this next point.
Our modern tree of life, the map we use today, is not drawn based on what we can see with our eyes. It is built on the solid, deep, and revolutionary foundation of genetics. That is the real map of life. And that leaves us with a really cool final thought, doesn't it? Our whole map of life got turned upside down because of one technological revolution. So as our tools for reading DNA get even faster, even more powerful, what's next? How is this incredible, sprawling tree of life going to change again? What other amazing discoveries are still out there just waiting for us to find them?